Not China. Is India the next factory of the world? Why are global companies leaving Vietnam? There was a time when Vietnam was hailed as the next factory of the world. Global giants like Apple, Google, and Nike began shifting their production there, moving away from China. It seemed certain Vietnam was emerging as China's strongest alternative. But suddenly, the narrative is changing. The very same global companies that invested billions in Vietnam are now considering moving out. And this time, their next destination is none other than India. So, the big question is, what happened that made companies turn their eyes from Vietnam toward India? That's exactly what we'll explore in depth today. But before we begin, if you are new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe so you are always the first to get updates on our latest videos. So, let's dive into today's discussion without any delay. After the global supply chain was shaken by the COVID crisis in 2020, the world began to consider the China Plus One strategy to reduce dependence on China and shift part of the supply chain to another country. At that time, Vietnam emerged as the biggest beneficiary. Low labor costs, rapid policy reforms, proximity to China, and well-developed ports made it a favorite among global companies. Giants like Apple, Samsung, and Nike quickly moved their operations there. But now, the situation is changing once again. On 22nd April 2025, a major news story flipped the entire equation. Companies like Apple and Google announced plans to scale up their production in India. Google's parent company Alphabet is now considering shifting Pixel phone production from Vietnam to India through Dixon Technologies and Foxconn. And this decision wasn't made lightly. It's rooted in US trade policies, especially Trump's aggressive tariff strategy. In fact, the US has imposed a steep tariff of up to 46% on products imported from Vietnam, while the tariff on India stands at 26%. This means that if a company wants to export the same product to the US, it is cheaper to manufacture and ship it from India. Google has already initiated discussions with its contract manufacturers to start local production of components like enclosures, chargers, fingerprint sensors, and batteries in India, aiming to further reduce costs. And Alphabet isn't the only company making this move. Samsung, which is the largest electronics manufacturer in Vietnam, is also slowly shifting focus toward India. The reason is not just tariffs, but also Vietnam's limited production capacity and workforce availability. Companies now need a more scalable and structured supply chain, and India is emerging as a strong contender in that direction. This shift didn't happen overnight. Its seeds were sown years ago when rising costs, strict regulations, and political risks in China forced companies to start looking for alternatives. Vietnam was the first to seize this opportunity. With free trade agreements, cheap labor, and fast government approvals, it quickly won over investors. But over time, its limitations began to surface: small geography, limited human resources, and now, the changing US trade policy. After COVID, Vietnam initially replaced China as a manufacturing hub, but between 2023 and 2025, a new narrative began to take shape in the US. According to reports, China has been using Vietnam as a proxy for exports to the US, meaning Chinese companies ship their products through Vietnamese ports and label them as "Made in Vietnam" to dodge US tariffs. As a result, the Trump administration has now started viewing Vietnam with suspicion. A report by the Lowy Institute states that Vietnam has become the primary hub for Chinese indirect exports to the US. This has had a direct impact on the strategies of companies like Alphabet, which are now seeking to source from lower-risk countries, and India is now topping that list. India's story is equally fascinating. In recent years, the government has undertaken several policy reforms. Corporate tax was reduced from 40% to 35%, the PLI, Production-Linked Incentive, scheme was launched, and the Make in India campaign gained strong momentum. States like Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, and Maharashtra are now emerging as new manufacturing hubs. Apple is already manufacturing iPhones in India, and now Pixel is following the same path. India has another major advantage: its vast domestic market. Companies don't just manufacture for export here. The local demand is so high that producing within the country makes strong economic sense. So far, most of Google's Pixel phones were manufactured for the US market, but now local production for India is also ramping up. Another factor in India's favor is its geopolitical position. Amid rising tensions between China and the US, India has maintained a neutral stance. This appeals to the US, which is looking for a partner that is neither aligned with China nor openly opposed to it. India fits this role perfectly. This shift isn't limited to smartphones. Vietnam, which had long been a key exporter in sectors like footwear and furniture, is now witnessing a change. Companies in these industries are now looking toward India. According to a CNBC report, 25% of Nike's shoes come from Vietnam, but the company is now exploring manufacturing options in India. Similarly, 26% of US furniture imports once came from Vietnam, but those numbers are now declining. The message is clear: the China Plus One strategy is gradually evolving into Vietnam Minus One. And India stands to gain immensely from this transition, provided it continues to improve its policies, logistics, and infrastructure. Contract manufacturers like Dixon Technologies, Tata Electronics, and Bharat FIH are now gearing up to take India's industrial ecosystem to the next level. Now, India must ensure that it doesn't just remain an alternative, but becomes a permanent destination for global manufacturing. For this, focused investment and policy making in areas like ease of doing business, single-window clearances, power infrastructure, and labor reforms are absolutely essential. The ongoing geopolitical tug-of-war between the US and China could become a goldmine of opportunities for India if decisive actions are taken in time. Companies like Dixon and Foxconn are already prepared to scale up production in India. Now, what's needed is strong coordination between the government and the private sector. Ultimately, the question isn't whether Vietnam is falling behind. The real question is India ready to take its place? If the answer is yes, then the next 5 years could transform India into a global manufacturing superpower.
If our video has taught you something new, do not forget to like and share this video so that this information can reach others as well. Your likes and shares are a source of inspiration for us. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let us know in the comments. It will be our honor to answer your questions and listen to suggestions. And yes, if you like our content, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you stay connected with every new story. Thank you. GRT Business YouTube channel sources: news from various news agencies, opinion polls, and other public sources. We try to ensure that every report and summary is accurate and verified, but we are not responsible for any dispute or error. Our aim is only to provide you with accurate information.